Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. A text Lindsey Hill sent to a friend before she ever even met me. What should I steal? She asked another, in reference to visiting my house for the first time. The answer? Take his money. So how might that work? I'm going to his house Wednesday, she said. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll.
The MeToo movement was a social movement that was created to raise awareness against abuse, sexual harassment, and rape culture. It gave women the power to come forward and publicize their experiences of sexual harassment and sexual abuse. This movement was created in the wake of the Harvey Weinstein allegations of sexual abuse against women in the film industry. It quickly spread through social media as a hashtag that many women and organizations co-opted to become part of the movement. High-profile celebrities like Alyssa Milano, Gwyneth Paltrow, Ashley Judd, and Jennifer Lawrence, among others, took to Twitter to voice their support for the movement. The movement was a wild success at first. Many women came forward, and men in positions of power lost their jobs as a result of it. In fact, MeToo brought down 201 powerful men. The most notable takedown of the MeToo movement was Harvey Weinstein, who was convicted of sex and was sentenced to 23 years in prison. But amid all the successes the movement was having, something dark was growing within the movement: false allegations. The movement quickly morphed into #BelieveAllWomen, as if women would never lie and use false allegations against men. Men who were concerned that women may start making false allegations were dismissed as nothing more than crazies who just wanted to sex women in the workplace and get away with it. But this wasn't the case. This was a very valid concern for men to have. Take, for example, the allegation made against comedian actor Aziz Ansari. He was accused by a woman of pressuring her during an encounter, which almost cost him his career. Her accusation? She felt uncomfortable during their encounter. Johnny Depp was another victim of the #BelieveAllWomen wave. He was accused by his now ex-wife Amber Heard of abuse. He lost movie roles, sponsorships, and his good image in the public eye. When they went to court, it was proven that she was actually the abuser in the relationship. There are more examples of this happening to men and having their lives ruined. That's exactly what happened to MLB star pitcher Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer, who pitched for the Los Angeles Dodgers, lost his career in the MLB due to the false accusations of Lindsey Hill. She ruined his life, got him kicked out of the MLB, and ruined his reputation in the eyes of many. Here's the video of Bauer breaking down all the text messages she sent to various people about her plan and its subsequent exoneration.
Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. A text Lindsey Hill sent to a friend before she ever even met me. What should I steal? She asked another, in reference to visiting my house for the first time. The answer? Take his money. So how might that work? I'm going to his house Wednesday, she said. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. Then, after the first time we met, net worth is 51 mil, she said. Bitch, you better secure the bag, was the response. But how is she going to do that? Need daddy to choke me out, she said. Being an absolute whore to try to get in on his 51 million, read another text. Then, after the second time we met, former Padres pitcher Jacob Nix told her, you got to get this bag. I'll give you 50,000, Lindsey replied. Her AA sponsor asked her at one point, do you feel a tiny bit guilty? Not really, she replied. Since then, her legal team has approached me multiple times about coming to a financial settlement. But as I have done since day one, I refuse to pay her even a single cent. In August of 2021, Lindsey Hill's claims were heard in court. And during those legal proceedings, critical information was deliberately and unlawfully concealed from me and my legal team. Information like this video, which was taken by Lindsey Hill herself the morning after she claimed she was brutally attacked, emotionally traumatized, and desperate to get away from me. And now we have the metadata, so there can be no dispute. It was taken mere minutes before she left my house on the morning of May 16th, 2021, without my knowledge or consent, of course. In it, you can see her lying in bed next to me while I'm sleeping, smirking at the camera without a care in the world, or any marks on her face. I think it paints a pretty clear picture of what actually happened the evening of May 15th and why the video was originally concealed from us. After hearing the evidence available to her, Judge Diana Gold-Saltman found that Lindsey Hill had misled the court. She found her claims to be materially misleading. She denied her request for a domestic violence restraining order, and she found that no sexual assault or non-consensual conduct took place. Now, some of you might not know about restraining order hearings. I know I didn't, but I've since learned that it's extremely rare for a request for a restraining order to be denied because the standard of proof that you need to obtain one is extremely low. So you can make of that what you will. The fact is, I was never arrested. I was never charged with a crime, and I won the only legal proceeding that took place without my side of the story even being heard. And most importantly, as I've said from day one, I never sexually assaulted Lindsay Hill, or anyone else for that matter. So I sued her, which prompted her to countersue me. Quite frankly, regardless of the outcome in court, I've paid significantly more in legal fees than Lindsay Hill could ever pay me in her entire life. And I knew that would be the case going in. But the lawsuit was never about the money for me. It was the only way for me to obtain critical information to clear my name. The discovery process in that lawsuit recently concluded, at which point Lindsay Hill's legal team again came to us with another proposal to resolve the case. This time, however, they weren't seeking any money from me. Having received much of the information that had been hidden from us, a small portion of which I've referenced here, I was willing to agree to the terms proposed. Both parties would drop their respective lawsuits, and neither of us would pay either side any money. I also retained my right to speak publicly about the case, something I have not been at liberty to do since June of 2021. So, as of today, both lawsuits have been settled. Now, over the last 2 years, I've been forced to defend my integrity and my reputation in a very public setting, but hopefully this is the last time I have to do so, as I'd prefer to just remain focused on doing my job, winning baseball games and entertaining fans around the world. So today, I'm happy to be moving on with my life.
After all of this became public information, she decided it would be a good idea for her to try and defend herself. We've got a video of her with a conservative commentator trying to justify her actions to the public, and we're going to break it down piece by piece.
Lindsay, I mentioned Bauer's video in which he provided some receipts that, I'm going to be honest with you, make you look like a clout chaser, or I know some people are calling you a cleat chaser because admittedly you were chasing after several high-profile, wealthy baseball players. Trevor says everything was completely consensual. He also released these text messages that came out in court indicating that you had planned the whole thing out. So I want to read some of these texts from you to a friend between the two of you before you met Trevor, this one. Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. Okay. Victim is an interesting choice of words. I'm going to allow you a chance to explain yourself. But after you agreed to meet, you asked your friend what you should steal. Your friend answered his money. He says, another one from you to a friend, I'm going to his house Wednesday. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. With a screenshot in which you told him, tryouts don't scare me, Bauer. Pick a day and I am there. Here are some more after you and Trevor met up. Net worth is $51 million, to which your friend responds, bitch, you better secure that bag. Your text, need daddy to choke me out, being an absolute whore to try to get in on his $51 million. You say this wasn't a setup. How can you expect anyone to believe that?
That's a great question. I really appreciate you having me on to even have this conversation. Obviously, there's a lot going on around this, so I really appreciate people who are asking questions about it. The first thing I want to say is, I think that Trevor did this intentionally with the text messages and how he framed this video.
Of course it was intentional. She intentionally tried and succeeded in ruining his life for money. And how was he supposed to frame it? Was he supposed to keep painting you in a positive light after you ruined his life and reputation?
And I just want to start out by saying, it's so valid for people to question those text messages. But the root of the problem here is that he is presenting this as one conversation, when in reality he had thousands of messages to choose from, took those, made it look sequential, which it was not. There is no combined screenshot of those things going on one after the other. And as I said last night as well, there's no text message that ever exists. Otherwise he would have, put it out there, combining, anything about a setup through rough sex, finances all in one. Those were handpicked, and they were from multiple different conversations all before we met up.
So her excuse is that because all of the messages weren't from one conversation, she was not trying to set him up. That because she was talking to multiple people about her plan and not just one person at one time, it wasn't her plan to set him up and ruin his life. Is that what she's going with here?
I think that the video in general doesn't even talk about what actually happened between us two, which is what would have come out during a jury trial. These were all messages that happened before.
Slight problem with this, because it wasn't him who wanted to settle. It was her legal team who reached out to his team and asked to settle the case.
Okay, I'm just curious if you know, the statistical likelihood of you texting your friend premeditated texts saying you wanted him to choke you out and steal his money, take his money, and him actually choking you out and those two things not being related?
It's a really, really valid question. And like I said, I think you would need to look through each conversation. Those were handpicked. But I can, like I said last night, completely own the fact that those were overly sarcastic, overly inappropriate to some may seem. And it does give off that impression about clout chaser and totally attention-seeking behavior. But I just feel that they have, nothing to do with what actually took place. But it does cause a lot of questions as to why I was, seeking Trevor out. But at the end of the day, there was nothing about a setup with violence and all of this stuff and getting financial gain. It was strictly, a 25 or however old I was at the time, girl trying to get attention from those things and phrasing it in a sarcastic way before we met.
So all of the text, the proof, her being completely fine as shown by her video she took with him in the morning after and looking completely fine, all of that is totally inconsequential, and the fact that she told her friend he was gonna have him beat her up was just coincidence. This was 100% a setup. She was fine the morning of and had somebody beat her like a drum after so that she could make her false allegations against him.
So you said in court that he sexually you on 2 different encounters, and you say the first time that you say he choked you unconscious. Clearly the insinuation is you didn't like it, because now you're calling it an assault. But why did you make the drive back to LA to meet back up with him a second time if this man had just assaulted you by your own account?
I think that's a really good question. How I phrased it and how I in the past is...
You can tell she rehearsed all of this. Her response to every question is, I think that's a really good question. And I absolutely love how the commentator hit her with the, I agree.
I was so embarrassed by the first encounter that I felt something, deep in me to go and take the power back and to be better and to be what he wanted in a sense.
How do you think going back to someone who allegedly abused you make you get the power back? And how do you get the power back by being what you thought he wanted you to be?
You texted Trevor before you met him, telling him you liked rough sex. Then you texted him after your first sexual encounter with him, which you now call an assault. And according to court records, you told him after that encounter that you had, quote, never been more turned on in your life. That's not really something that someone says when they were just a...
I think it's a super valid question. Everything you're asking me is a super valid question.
I agree. That's why I'm asking them.
Totally. And I think that I'm not, that's what expert witnesses are for in court in terms of the psychology behind that and responses to abuse and things like that. But like I said, I was just trying to make myself feel better about myself after what had happened the first time.
Okay, so if she wanted the truth, why did she have her team of lawyers reach out to him to settle the case? All she had to do was take him to trial, and if everything she said was true, she would have been exonerated and vindicated. Instead, she looks like a liar who ruined a man's life for clout. Also, does a person who claims they were text or abuse saying that that's the most turned on they've ever been in their life?
So you mentioned the markings on your body. I want to play a portion of his video in which he plays I would say, interesting video of you in his bed. Watch.
In August of 2021, Lindsay Hill's claims were heard in court. And during those legal proceedings, critical information was deliberately and unlawfully concealed from me and my legal team. Information like this video, which was taken by Lindsay Hill herself the morning after she claimed she was brutally attacked, emotionally traumatized, and desperate to get away from me. And now we have the metadata, so there can be no dispute. It was taken mere minutes before she left my house on the morning of May 16th, 2021, without my knowledge or consent, of course. In it, you can see her lying in bed next to me while I'm sleeping, smirking at the camera without a care in the world, or any marks on her face. I think it paints a pretty clear picture of what actually happened the evening of May 15th and why the video was originally concealed from us.
Lindsay, I think there are a lot of assault survivors who would say you don't look traumatized there and you don't look beaten. And this is allegedly after you say that he brutally attacked you and you had bruises all over your body. You had bruises all over your face. I don't see any bruises there. And I certainly don't see a woman who's just been traumatized by something horrible.
Again, super valid. I think that I woke up that morning and the best way to explain that video is I hadn't seen my entire body yet. I had no idea what had happened considering, I was unconscious for most of it. I had no idea what had happened to my full body.
Her explanation for the video of her in his bed smiling is crazy. You have to be brain dead to look at this video and not see that she's clearly lying. I'm sure everyone watching this video has been hit or hurt in some kind of way before. You know that if you're severely injured, you will feel pain. It doesn't take for someone to visually see a bruise for it to hurt. And the commentator basically nailed it and said the same thing to her here.
But if it was that severe, wouldn't you already feel pain? Wouldn't you already have bruises on your face? I mean, you say that he punched you in the face.
So that's pretty much where the video ends. I'm not sure if there are any longer videos floating around, but this video perfectly highlights what the hashtag MeToo movement has devolved into. There is no accountability, no recourse for Bauer, no justice, nothing. He lost his career and could have spent a significant amount of time in prison based on false accusations, and I'm sure nothing will happen to this woman. Nothing ever does. There are no repercussions for false accusations that ruin a man's life. I honestly believe that women who falsely accuse men of things like this, and it's proven to be false, should have the same sentence in prison the man would have gotten had he been convicted based on a lie. I really do hope that he sues the MLB because they presumed him guilty without the evidence coming out. I think that companies need to learn to let the facts play out first before cutting off a man's head with no proof, but that's just my opinion on it. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and follow me on social media. The links will always be in the description down below. And if you enjoyed this video, check out one of the ones right here on the screen, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.